Hi there, my name is Will, and in just a tick, I'll be showcasing Algolia's data transformations feature. As we all know, data is messy, and when you start with imperfect data, you get imperfect results. We see it all the time. A company has great product catalog, solid content, and well-tagged metadata. But when it's time to plug data into search, something's just not right. Maybe it's the wrong format, fields are missing, or it's inconsistent. And suddenly relevance is off and customers aren't finding what they're looking for. This tool simplifies even the most complex data preparation tasks, optimizing the data for more precise search outcomes and ultimately more seamless discovery experiences. So let's jump in. So I'm going to walk you through data transformations, give you an idea of what that is and what it can do for you, and how data transformations can enhance your search and discovery experience. We're going to look at how we can fix certain data quality gaps and how this all fits in overall into your indexing strategy. So let's take a look at some of the business requirements that you might have received from the business team. So these are some common examples. And on the right side, we have an example record. So this just represents a jacket, and you can see that there's some attributes here like name and brand, date, and things like that. So it's just some very simple attributes. And the business team might have said, we want to be able to sort and rank by date added. So in e-commerce sense, this might be representing like a newness attribute. In a non-e-commerce sense, this might be something like a date published attribute. Secondly, a business team might want to be able to enable a feature like query categorization. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's a really cool Algolia feature that uses AI to try and predict the most relevant category for a given query. And for query categorization to work, it requires categories to be set up in a certain way. So I'll show you how you can go about doing that. And then lastly, the business team might also say we want to be able to enable search and filtering by color, for example. And if you notice on the record data that we have on the right side, there actually isn't an attribute for color. So how can we create an attribute out of nothing? You'll be able to see how we can achieve all of those business requirements and create those new attributes like for color, how we can restructure your categories in a way to work for query categorization, and how we can convert that date attribute in a way that works best for ranking and sorting. Great. So let me show you how you can access the dashboard. So I'm just going to share my screen. And if you're on algolia.com and you don't have an account with us already, feel free to sign up. It's completely free. If you do have an account already, you can click this login icon in the top right corner here. Cool. So once the dashboard loads, what you'll need to do is navigate to the bottom left corner where it says data sources, and then in the top left where it says connectors. Now, if we look at this connector screen, you'll notice that there are two new connectors. So firstly, we have one called Push to Algolia, and a second we have called Algolia Index Connector. Now, the difference between the two is Push to Algolia will apply the data transformation before your data gets indexed into Algolia, what we call a pre-index transformation. And then the Algolia Index Connector is a post-index transformation. So once your data is already in Algolia, we then apply the transformations. Now, both of these work in a very, very similar way. And today, I'm just going to walk you through one of them. So I'm just going to choose this Algolia Index Connector here and click Connect. Cool. So now on this screen, you'll notice that there are just 4 steps to complete this. And the first step is connecting to our index. So let's select our index. I'm just going to choose this one here. We can apply a name if we want to, but I'm just going to click Create Source. And that's just going to take a couple of seconds to connect before moving on to the next step. So on the next step, you have the option of choosing an existing data transformation if you have that already. But today I'm going to click create a new transformation. Now on this screen for the business users out there, I know this might look a little bit intimidating, but please bear with me. I'm going to explain to you how all of this works in a very simple manner. And then you can go about telling your developers afterwards just how easy it all was. And also remember that you're not alone on this journey. We're here to help. So please don't hesitate to reach out to your account team for support. And learning anything new does come with a whole bunch of questions. So again, feel free to reach out to them along the way. So firstly, let's take a look at what we have on screen here. So on the left side, we have the code editor, and you'll see that there is a function there already. We have our sample records on the right side. So we've got a jacket here in this case, and all of its different attributes. And at the bottom, we have a preview of how our transformation is going to work with this data. So let's go back to code editor and look at what we have here. So we have this transform function. This is the default function that we have, and that's how Algolia is going to transform your data. But what we're going to do is firstly work on the first business requirement, which is to transform the date into a format that works for sorting and ranking. And we're going to transform this into Unix time. So Unix time is a format that represents date and time in seconds. And because of the way Algolia works, an integer-based attribute works best for sorting and ranking. So let me go to the code editor and go down to the bottom and create a new function. I'm just going to call this function convert date to Unix time. And this function is going to take in an input date. And that's all I'm going to write here because I'm not a developer. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to write this code for me instead. So I'm just going to copy and paste the code that ChatGPT has given me. So this is the logic to convert the date to Unix time. And if you're a developer, feel free to write your own logic if you want to. Now, how do we get this function to convert the date and write a new attribute for us? So back in that transform function, what we're going to do is firstly reference the record itself. So let's just type record, and we're going to choose a name for this new attribute. So let's call this something like date Unix. And what that's going to do is then run this function convert date to Unix time and take the output of that. So firstly, we need to also pass in the input date. So this date added attribute. Let's pass that in. Great. So that's all we need to do for this conversion. So to preview that, we have this play button in the top right corner. So let's hit that and see what happens. Awesome. So we have this new date Unix attribute, and the date and time has been represented in seconds now. So that's awesome. Our team can go about and set this up for sorting and ranking. Cool. So as you can see, for the developers out there, this tool really does give you full freedom to write any kind of function that you want to for any kind of transformation that you need to do. But for the business users out there, appreciate that this might look a little bit complex. So what we do have is a library of pre-written code called helper functions. Now, let's talk about the second requirement, and I'll show you how that looks. So the second requirement was to add Algolia's query categorization. And what we need to do is transform this set of categories that we have here into a more structured hierarchical format. So firstly, let's navigate down to the bottom where it says helper functions. and you will see that we have a really big list of pre-built code to do lots of different things, from converting data types to computing new properties, but also we have one specifically for query categorization. So let's select that one. And we have two options here. We need to have hierarchical categories. So let's look at this first option. You'll see at the bottom, it says that we need to have a list of categories. So if we look at our data structure already, we do have a list in that format. So let's click this add button and add this code to our code editor. And what I'm going to do is just quickly separate some of previous code so it makes it a little bit easier to see. And I'm just going to explain how this works. So firstly, we have a separator. This is used to basically separate the categories in that hierarchical structure. The second line here is just referencing where we're taking the category information from. In this case, it's the categories that sits on the record. And then this third line is basically saying, we want to write a new attribute, and we're going to call this one hierarchical categories. And what that's going to do is take the output of this new function that is inserted down here called compute hierarchical categories. So this function down here works straight out the box. You don't need to touch this at all. So all of this looks really good. We don't really need to change anything at all. I'm going to hit this play button to see what happens. Cool. So we have hierarchical categories down here now. So that's taken our original category structure and created this new hierarchical category structure for query categorization. Excellent. So that's 2 requirements down already, and we have 1 more to go, and I'm saving the best for last. So how can we create a color attribute out of nothing? Now, something I hear a lot from our customers, especially in fashion or furniture, is that they have marketing names for colors, like sapphire or ocean mist, but their users don't search in that way. So how can we make colors more searchable? Well, if we go back to our helper functions at the bottom, we can go down to fetch. And fetch is a really powerful function that allows you to connect to external APIs. And just quick note that fetch is also only available to customers on premium and elevate plans. Now you see there's a few different options at the bottom here. So we have 2 for OpenAI or ChatGPT. One is for text generation and one is using images. Then we have a few different other ones like converting currency or translating text. And then at the end, we also have some custom functions, which just allows you to connect to really any kind of external API. But what we're going to do today is use this OpenAI Vision function here. And what we're going to do is pass in the product image to ChatGPT. Then we're going to ask ChatGPT what color it thinks our product is. ChatGPT is then going to tell us what color, and we're going to add that as a new attribute into our record. So let's see how this works. I'm just going to click add to insert the code to our editor here. And again, I'm just going to separate some of the code to make it easier to see. Cool. So we've inserted a whole bunch of code here. And the first thing that I see is that we have a big red error message. And it says secret is not registered. So with any kind of external API, you'll probably have some kind of authentication method, some credentials. In this case, we need to insert the OpenAI API key. So let's click this error message, and you'll see that this shows this secrets editor. Now, we never really want to expose any kind of API key in our code. So this just works with coding best practices. And we have this OpenAI API key variable already in here. And so all I need to do is just copy and paste our API key. Now, if you don't have an account with ChatGPT already, you will need to have a paid account to have access to their API keys. But once you do so, very simple to add that in. So let's just click add. And once we do that, you'll see that it's also given you a little bit of code down here to say that you can use a helper function to access secrets and to get the OpenAI API key. But you'll notice that we already have that same code just here, so we don't need to do anything else besides that. Now moving on, let's look at the user prompt. So this is what we're going to ask ChatGPT to do. I'm just going to replace this prompt with one that I've written earlier, and I'll explain to you just how this works. Okay, so I'm going to ask ChatGPT, what color is the main product in this image? Only reply with the nearest color from this list. And you'll notice in this list, we have just some very simple color names. And the reason for that is we want to make this searchable. So users are going to be able to search by just very simple color names like red, blue, and green, and not by the marketing names like ocean mist. The third thing we need to do down here is just to reference our product image. So we've just got a placeholder here, which I'm just going to remove. And we want to pass in this image here. So to do so, just want to reference the record and then pass in the image attribute. And that's all we need to do there. So the next thing you'll see that there is some configuration here. You don't need to touch this, but feel free to play around in your own time as well. Then lastly, we want to write that color information to a new attribute. So here it's just called my field. I'm just going to change this to color so it's a bit more meaningful. And you'll see here as well, it's also referencing this function called Ask GPT. So let's look at the bottom. You'll see there's a whole bunch of code here to Ask GPT. You don't need to touch any of that. It's just going to work straight out the box. Cool. So we've got everything set up here. Let's click this transform button and see how that goes. Awesome. So now we have this new color attribute, and ChatGPT thinks that this jacket is navy in color. So only one way to be sure is to take a look at the image itself and see what we think. That looks like a navy jacket to me, so ChatGPT has done extremely well there. And yeah, so we've completed all three business requirements. So we're good to go from here. So let's just save this code and exit out of this editor. All right, so we're moving on to third step, and that is to create our destination. So where do you want to send this transform data? If you have an existing one, you can choose that. I'm just going to choose create a new destination. I'm going to select an index that I already have called webinar fashion transformed. I'm going to select this create new credentials as well. All right, so we're good to go on this step. You can create a name as well if you want to, but I'm just going to click create destination. Excellent. So last step here, we have a few different options. So here we're going to define how this transformation is going to fit into your indexing strategy. Now for this transformation, you can select something like on demand if, for example, it might be a one-off transformation, or you only want to trigger this manually, in which case you can do so either through the dashboard like I am doing so here, or through our API. If, however, you have a transformation you want to apply on a regular basis, you can also schedule that as well. So you can choose that interval of when you want to schedule it. Down at the bottom, you have a few different methods of how you want this transformation to be applied. Do you want to do a full re-indexing, in which case we replace everything in your entire index with that transformed data? We have full record updates, in which case we replace only the records in full, or partial record updates, where we only update the changed attributes for those records. So depending on what you want to do, select the appropriate option. In my case, I'm just going to click for re-indexing, and then I'm going to select create task. And once we do so, you'll see that there is a pop-up here to launch that task. In my case, I just want to run this task and see what it looks like. It just takes a couple of seconds and you'll start to see that this task has started already. And what I can do is click this icon here to inspect the debugger. Now within the debugger, it's going to give you a list of all the steps our transformation takes and whether each step has succeeded or not. So if it has succeeded, it will look something like this. If you do run into an error, you will get full details of that error, in which case you can go back to your code and make those fixes. There you have it. With data transformations, it's easier than ever to unlock the full potential of your data and improve your search capabilities. So to learn more, reach out to the team.